Hello, everyone. This is Bridget Danner here with my friend Jane Hogan, also known as the Wellness Engineer. Her personal experience of reversing crippling rheumatoid arthritis using natural solutions inspired her to leave a 30-year engineering career and become a functional medicine certified health coach, certified yoga teacher, and wellness educator. Combining ancient wisdom with cutting-edge quantum science, Jane's Wellness by Design blueprint has helped hundreds of people release chronic pain naturally. She's also the host of the upcoming, is it called Pain Free Summit, Jane? Let me get the
Becoming
name right.
pain-free, healing the root causes of chronic pain.
Becoming Pain Free Summit. So, welcome, Jane. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Bridget. I'm so excited to be here. I just love having the opportunity to speak to your audience and share what I've learned, and something may spark something in them and help someone.
Yeah, it's awesome. So you've interviewed me, but I don't think I've interviewed you yet. I'd love to hear more about your background, your personal history with pain, and maybe what you didn't do initially for it, and then what you did
Mhm.
discover to do.
Yeah, so I was an engineer, right? Working as an engineer, doing my thing. And I had a really stressful year. Started with the death of my mother, and I was really
Oh,
close to her. And I had to deal with the house and deal with my family and all that. And so it was a stressful year. And all of a sudden, I started getting this joint pain. And it got worse and worse, and I knew it had to be related to the stress and not sleeping and all that, but I thought just a little vacation and I'll be fine. But it got worse and it got worse, like shoulder, jaw, elbow,
mm.
hands, knees, feet. It was all over the place, Bridget. And so within 3 months, basically, I went from being strong, healthy, vibrant to being nearly disabled. It was crazy fast, and I really didn't know what was going on, and I felt like life was out of control, and my body was just it was out of control. Didn't know what it was. My doctor had made an appointment with a rheumatologist, but it takes months. I live in Newfoundland. It takes months to get in to see a rheumatologist. So she said, "Well, while we're waiting, you could try swapping foods." And I'm like, "What?" She said, "Yeah, there's some foods that can cause joint pain." And I thought it was nuts, but I really was in so much pain and I really didn't have any other options. So I cut out gluten and dairy and sugar. And I had like this within 5 days, a significant reduction in pain, like really noticeable. So I knew that
Wow.
I wasn't I went from feeling like a victim to feeling empowered. But actually, even before that started, when I was at this like rock bottom moment, I had like I don't know what to call it, a moment with my higher self, a download, whatever. It was like this message came clear to me that said, "You're going to figure this out, and then you're going to tell people about it." So
Mm.
I kind of had this feeling that I knew I could figure it out. Like I knew that was a truth. Like, when you get something like that, it's true. And so I just started trying different things. I worked with food. I had no clue what I was doing. Discovered like the autoimmune protocol paleo diet. So I was working with that, and then I would get better, but then I would plateau, and then I think, okay, I got to try something else. So I learned about toxins, right? So uh, eliminating toxins as much as I could, and getting better sleep and movement, and really looking at my relationships. And I would get a little bit better, plateau again, a little bit better, plateau again. And a long ways into it, I knew that mindset was a big part. So I had like this vision, and I would have a vision of myself being well. And I would bring this vision up every day and say, like, I'm an example of what's possible. I am healing every day in every way, and my body is getting stronger and
I
stronger.
love
Like, I
that.
really worked at all that. I look in the mirror and say, I'm so proud of you, like all this kind of stuff. But what I realized later was that it was really like, the stress that I had in that year was like a tipping point, but I had had a lot of stress leading up to it, like my whole life, carrying
Mm.
like I was a people pleaser and a perfectionist and all of that kind of stuff. And that's stress in the body. So I had actually been carrying a lot of stress for a long time.
Mm.
So I really had to look at that too. And where did these thoughts come from? Like, why? why was I such a people pleaser and a perfectionist? And, could I let that go? And so it's all been a beautiful journey. And I feel like every bit of it was perfect because it took me here. I did eventually, reverse all the symptoms. I became a functional medicine health coach because I wanted to learn about functional medicine. And then I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna leave my engineering career and I want to just help people. I knew that this is what I was meant to do. And so I feel like I'm on my mission now.
That's awesome. Well, you seem very vibrant again,
Mm.
perhaps more than you were before, huh?
Well, I was always vibrant, but you know what? I think I had these little feelings inside, this people pleasing and perfectionist. It
Mm,
comes from the need to prove that you are enough, right? So I really do feel like I'm enough now. Whereas I
mm,
think before I had to keep proving it. So I feel better on the inside. Maybe my
gotcha.
outside matches my inside now.
Well, I love that you were open-minded. First of all, you think about how many people get a diagnosis about arthritis or some chronic disease and just say, "Oh, I'll just wait for my appointment and, poor me." And um I've been there too. And it's just
Mhm.
so heartwarming to hear that you did that and that you kept like going further. Like, no, I want even better and better. And that you were willing to think all these things may play into this thing, this people pleasing and chronic stress. And I've heard many stories about death of a parent being a tipping point, and all the stress that comes after that. So yeah, it's super inspirational. So I wonder if before we get into some of your solutions, can you tell us a little bit more about RA in particular, like the mechanism and how many people have it? I'm kind of curious.
Rheumatoid arthritis, well, it's an autoimmune condition. So a lot of people don't realize that they think it's like the same as osteoarthritis, but it's a different form of arthritis. It's an inflammation, it's an autoimmune condition. Autoimmune conditions, I mean, it's a horrible term. They say it's the body attacking itself, but you think about those feelings of not being good enough. It's sort of like we are rejecting ourselves, right? So
Mm,
I think there's something that goes along with that mindset, those beliefs, and then an autoimmune condition. But anyway, so it is all autoimmune conditions have a commonality of a gut problem. So what starts that problem could be, the stress, right? It could be stress that just means that all the bodily systems aren't working that well. Digestion doesn't work very well, and our main area for our immune system is in the gut area. I've heard different people say 70%, 80% of our immune system is in our gut. So we start to get a condition called leaky gut, which I'm sure you know about, where the intestinal lining in the small intestine opens up, like it gets torn, almost like cheesecloth, it gets torn. And so bigger particles of food, and then, part of our microbiome, bits of those bacteria, get through and leak into our bloodstream, which is where the immune system is, like, they're being vigilant to wait and see what's happening. And then so these particles come in, the immune system gets on high alert. Now the thing is, though, that some of these proteins in the foods that we eat and from these bacteria are similar to our own tissues, and so the immune system gets a little confused. And so it starts attacking our own tissues, thinking that it's an invader because they look similar. Not exactly the same, but they look similar. So that's one of the mechanisms. So it's leaky gut. It's kind of like if you've got an autoimmune condition, that's the fire that needs to be put out first. And
mm,
that's what I did, like with food. Right,
mhm,
I stopped eating these foods that were inflaming my gut, and that it helped seal that. And because those cells in the small intestine replace every 3 to 5 days, that's why I felt better so quickly, right?
mm,
Because cells were replacing themselves, so my gut was healing that quickly. So that's the really good news. It does heal quickly, but you still have to get at those underlying. And I think it does come back to feelings and stress that cause the leaky gut in the first place. So there's a lot of
mm.
pieces. There's a lot of puzzle pieces.
I know once I read this study about people watching the news. Like they would have people watch the news and like measure their mucosal lining, and it would like it would shrink
Oh
basically
my
from
goodness,
watching
that
the
totally makes
news.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just for people watching, you have this, your immune system has a lot in your gut, and it's kind of housed in this goopy lining, which is a good thing. It's a barrier from, you know, what's coming through to your body. And many of the people we test, I don't know if you do these testing, their mucosal barrier is thinned. So yeah, stress is, that's one way stress can hurt that gut lining. And yeah, some of it's really pervasive, like you're describing with the people pleasing. I mean, that I'm reading a book about boundaries right now. That's no
Mm.
coincidence. It's because I need help with, you know, just learning how to say no, and you know, that kind of a thing. So that's a barrier too, right? That's a
Yes.
boundary.
Yeah.
So you know, not being able to have those has some symbolism. I like how you said, you know, you get a little and then plateau. I would imagine that your summit content, and I'll show that in a second, could be helpful for people who, okay, hey, I've already changed my diet, but I'm still having some complaints, or
Mhm.
I've already changed my cleaning products, but I'm still having some complaints. So I wonder if you want to touch on some of that variety.
Yeah, well, I get people coming to me like that too because, yeah, they think, well, I'm doing all this stuff. And that's where I was like, I'm doing all this stuff. Like, what else can I do? Some people are coming to me, and maybe you see this too, like they're eating 5 foods. And right. So, and they're thinking, well, I can't cut any other foods out. So, yeah. But the summit, I'm so proud of the summit. I really wanted to gather together experts that in all these areas that took me years to figure out, so and to find. So I wanted them all together in one place. So this summit is not just about rheumatoid arthritis, it's about chronic pain in general. And there's so many aspects to chronic pain, and it can be complicated, but in some ways it's very simple as well. So kind of between all the experts, we sort of come up with 2 buckets of root causes of chronic pain. One is stress, which can include, of course, your thoughts and feelings as well about yourself. And then the other one is toxins, which you know a lot about. So we've got these 2 areas that can be the root causes of chronic pain. But I got so many great experts. And yeah, just Dr. Bruce Lipton, he talked about the subconscious mind and how the mind kind of hangs on to pain, and how your subconscious beliefs can keep you in pain, cause pain, and keep you in pain, and
Mm.
also how to release them. So, so interesting. Dr. Sue Mortar talked about energy, and I had quite a few speakers talk about energy too, that we are an energetic body. And when we have chronic pain or any illness, really, it's energy not flowing. Right, with the traditional Chinese medicine and the yogic traditions, they've known for thousands of years about energy and how we've got an energetic body as well. So there's experts talking about that. Some talking about food and lifestyle, like you talked about mold. JJ Virgin talking about the most inflammatory
Mm-hmm.
foods.
That's
Um,
great.
yeah, Dr. Keisha Ewers, I really love. She talked about boundaries actually, which is really interesting,
Ah,
and how boundaries on different levels, not just that mucosal lining, which is one boundary, but also boundaries in terms of who do you let into your life, right? Because they can cause stress. I got a whole day dedicated to specific conditions too. So I've got like a Lyme expert, a fibromyalgia expert, an arthritis expert, autoimmune expert, jaw pain expert, back
oh
pain.
yeah, I saw
So
that.
yeah, yeah, so that's really great. I got one thing I really love too is a lot of these experts, they shared like a little session with people. And so people get to experience, the audience will get to experience like a little session with them. Okay, what would might it be like to work with them? But what would it be? How can you, like Geraldine Glass there? She uses these crystal singing bowls.
Love
Beautiful.
it.
Actually, that's one of the advanced content, talk, so people can, as soon as they register, they can listen to that one. But she plays her singing bowls, and because we are energetic beings, we're sensitive to vibrations, and so beautiful sounds can be very healing to us. Um, Shiroko Soket, she talked about traditional Chinese medicine. Jessica Drummond was talking about endometriosis, the pain of endometriosis.
Mm,
Betsy Greenleaf, so good. She was talking about pelvic pain, and interesting that pelvic pain, the source of pelvic pain may not be in the pelvis. It could be
mm.
somewhere else. So, yeah, just so many great speakers really sharing. I mean, where else can you go but a summit to get all these people who have spent years studying, working with people, and then now sharing, condensing what they've learned into like 30, 40 minutes, and then you get to learn it. So good. Yeah, Heather Ardema talked about the stress of clutter in your life, right? And how that creates stress in your mind, creates stress in your body. This girl, Elizabeth Kristoff, is so interesting. She does brain-based wellness. So she teaches you ways to use your brain to change the output of pain in the body. So you change the input to change the output. So interesting.
Super interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Deborah Wayne did a whole energy session. Have you ever done an energy session with Deborah Wayne?
I have. Yeah, that's really cool.
She's so good. So yeah, it's like this. She calls it high speed healing. So she did this high speed healing session, like a little condensed one, but in her session, you get to experience that, and so good. Yeah, amazing
Cool.
speakers.
Cool. Yeah, I love the mind kind of piece that I loved how you shared you did these kind of affirmations in your own healing. And I recently had this let me get back to you, this vibral nerve pain I never had before, and I was really upset and like stressing out about it. And then I somehow kind of shifted and I was like, okay, you have all these tools, like you're an acupuncturist, you have all this history, like, maybe we can like reframe what this is and what it's capable of being. And because the energy of like being in that worry is horrible. It's almost like worse than the pain.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
love that you kind of included that.
And I think something that came through a lot with so many of the speakers is that pain isn't the problem. Pain is your body telling you that there's a problem and asking for your help, and that the body can heal with help. That our bodies are meant to heal. They are not meant to, like, they're not supposed to break down. Theoretically, if everything worked well, we could live forever. But so we're not meant to be in pain. And so I think when we can reframe pain that way, reframe it as information, it's
Right.
information our body is giving us. And so instead of trying to like stuff it down and mask it and hide it and get mad with it, right? We want to feel like we're the ally for our body. And so we can help. We can help. It's asking for our help. So understanding these concepts and understanding what you can do is part of what the summit is doing. It's giving people the inspiration and the knowledge and the tools to help them become the person who can heal their body and then eventually become pain-free. So I'm really, really proud of this. I'm so excited for people to be able to experience it.
Well, I'll put the link in the chat. It is in the longer description of the video if you're on YouTube or Facebook right now. But I'll put the link in there. It is free to join.
Yep.
And then Curtis
July
said
18th to the
July
24th.
18th, but you do get some lectures and the sound healing right away. So
Yes.
we had some questions on here, Jane, a little bit about your engineering background and
Oh.
maybe kind of how it plays into your current path. And it sounds like a little bit around the basis of kind of the factual basis of some of the theories about energy work and
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, you know what? I love the science, and I'm very engineery, so I've got that science background. And I think problem solving, right, is what we do in engineering. So I think that problem solving mentality really helped me as I was figuring things out for myself, but also when I help clients as well. But that science background, like I like to see the science as well. And so I love that there's so much science backing all this up. I love that this whole idea of us being, well, it's not just an idea. Science, quantum science tells us we are energy. Like it's not real, it's a fact. It's not like anything to be disputed. And it's because the science tells us that. But I love the spiritual practices as well. So I feel like all parts of me are coming together here now. I did Reiki training, 15 years ago, long before any of this happened. I used to practice Tai Chi. And so I've always had this interest in the power of the mind as well. Like I always found it fascinating, hypnosis, and how, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but I remember hearing the story and I don't know who it was, but it really stuck in my mind that one hypnotist, he had like a pencil and he put it on the subject's arm, but said that it was a lit cigarette and the skin bubbled.
Oh my
So
gosh.
the skin, like we can have a physiological reaction to a thought, right? The placebo effect always fascinated me too. So all of this kind of has come together, the power of the mind, the science, and just now it's part of who I am, both sides of this. And I think the science now is proving really that spiritual aspect. My cat's coming up here now. The whole spiritual aspect of that we've known about for years, that the spiritual and world wisdom traditions have been talking about for years. Now the science is proving it. The science is saying, yeah, actually, we are energy. And yeah, actually, there is a unified field of information. Call it whatever you want, but the quantum science tells us that it's so.
Yeah, I think depending on, which theory we're talking about, there are different studies. I know Joe Dispenza's team is doing a lot of study. I
Yeah.
thought of one I read about, just thinking about how your mind, I saw some study about how just like picturing yourself doing bicep curls 15 minutes a day still like had a beneficial effect on your biceps.
Oh, there's been scientific studies proving that the
Yeah,
people who did, like, just imagine that they're doing bicep curls, or the people that actually did them, they both had increase in the muscles, which is like wild, right? Our
it's
our brain
crazy.
can't tell the difference between real and imagined. And then these studies about how they, I don't know if you heard about this one, but they took these older people and they put them like in a setting of from when they were
Oh
30
yeah.
years younger or something.
The
Everything about the,
music and
yeah,
yeah.
the music, the television shows, the magazines, everything. And they, people that came in with like canes and wheelchairs, left without them because now in their mind they're younger. So the mind is fascinating. It's so fascinating.
It really is, and we can forget it has this power when we go about our daily lives, but I think an opportunity like a illness or a big change hopefully can kinda spark that reminder, like, "Okay, like, I'm in charge of how this experience goes,"
Yeah.
and just tap into some of the,
Yeah.
positivity and yeah.
And I mean, going back to quantum physics again, and this is Joe Dispenza talks about this. You mentioned him earlier about, creating our reality, being a match for the reality we want to create. That's, kind of what visioning is about, and vision boards and all that is you feel like you're already there. And then that kind of comes to you because you match it, right?
Yeah.
So it's really, really interesting. And I know that I was doing some of that in the beginning. I wasn't 100%, but I was doing a lot of it.
Mm.
And I still do it. I still, like, every morning I come back to, okay, let's come back to that happy place and that feeling that I want to have and what I want in my life. And the more I can feel that, the more I draw it to me.
Yeah, yeah, and then I think you can also kinda do some, reparenting and just tell yourself, like, "You did a good job today," and that kind of thing. That's something I do. Sometimes we don't think we're being hard on ourselves, like being a perfectionist or whatever, but, really, if we stop, there isn't much praise we're giving ourselves. It's always like, "You didn't finish your to-do list," and,
Yeah.
"You yelled at your kid," and you're so negative on yourself. So that's a little change that's helped me.
Well, Yeah, exactly. Like I'm very blessed that I had a mother who was like my biggest fan. She was my biggest supporter and cheerleader. And so when she died, I kind of lost that. And I realized I have to be my own cheerleader. I have to be my own biggest fan. And so I started, and, it sounds kind of weird, but I started looking in the mirror and imagining my mother was saying these things to me. Like, I said earlier, I'm so proud of you. You're doing so well. You're an example of
Mm,
like, I started talking like that. Like she would talk to me, and maybe even better than she would talk to me. And so I just had to take on that role. But you know what? We should all be taking on that role for ourselves. We're
yeah.
way, way, way too hard on ourselves. And I see it over and over again with people who do have, I mean, I see people with pain, inflammation, not enough energy, and so on. And time and time again, it's that those kinds of patterns, that people pleasing, being too hard on themselves, putting other people first all the time, not being able to say no. A lot of us women are like that, and part of that is just our society, the way we grew up, and the beliefs we took on. But no, that's it, we've got them. So we want to try to like ease up on that. So be kind to ourselves and start putting ourselves first. When we are at our best, we've got so much for other people around us.
Yeah, yeah. And for people watching that, the mirroring, using a mirror is supposed to be a powerful technique because you're like seeing it, it's reflected back to you. So you kind of almost like your brain takes it on as sort of outside information, right?
Mm.
I
Yeah,
think that's
mirrors
a
are
theory.
powerful.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited to be part of the event. I'll just kind of share my mold soapbox for a second because we sort of went back and forth, but I was so busy when your event was starting up, or recording, but pain was a big part of my mold story. And I had a lot of, I don't know if you want to call them misdiagnoses, but just non-diagnoses of
Mhm.
where my pain was coming from because all the practitioners where I was seeing never considered mold, nor did I. I wasn't very aware of mold back then. But yeah, I remember when I moved into my old moldy home right before I got pregnant, and just a miserable pregnancy with back pain. And, everyone's just, you're pregnant, and then after I had my son, still a lot of back pain. Oh, well, you're holding a baby. That's why. And just kind of kept going on and on like that. Oh, you're too stressed. Oh, you're this, that. So I just really wanted, for my part, to just people on the event to know that mold can be a source of chronic pain because it creates chronic inflammation in the body. And there's so many mold symptoms that I think are just not getting pinged as being mold, and
Right.
this is one of them. So I'm glad that I got to kind of throw that in the
Mm.
ring there as a possibility. So thank you for that
Oh, I'm
opportunity.
so glad that you spoke on the summit, because people are probably not thinking of mold as being a source of their chronic pain. But of course, mold, like causes inflammation, and inflammation is kind of the precursor to pain. And of course, if you're living in a chronically moldy place, you're going to chronically have that pain. So yeah, you're so good, Bridget. I'm so grateful to you
Yeah.
for being on the summit.
Yeah, and some people won't have as much pain, but it's definitely going to mess up your gut too and can lead to autoimmunity, like Jane talked about. It's another cause of autoimmunity. So, yeah, it looks like a great lineup. I'm going to sign up right now because I love sound healing, actually. So, I'd love to
Oh,
have that one in my
she's so
basket.
good.
Maybe I'll listen to that tonight. Oh my gosh, one time I came back I'll just tell this little story. I took care of my friend in the intensive care unit for a week, which is like, feels like 10 weeks when you're doing it. And then I flew home to Phoenix, and I had already signed up to go to my friend's house. She was having a sound healing event. And it was like everything I had just been through just like
Oh,
dissipated. I just
so
totally
nice.
returned to like completely balanced state again. So I was just incredibly impressed. And yeah, sometimes when we have a problem, we're just trying to solve it. And it's just like if you can, just like you said, think of yourself as an energy body and let things
Mm,
release
mhm.
instead of like figuring it out for weeks. I just like let go. So it's
Oh,
pretty
you're gonna
cool.
love her bowls. They've got metal alchemy in them. Like alchemized, I guess you'd say. To have, of course, they've got the tones and everything, but there's just something special about her bowls. I had my bowl when she had her bowls there, and mine just sounded almost flat compared to hers.
Well,
Hers,
hers are probably $2,000 each or something.
they are about $2,000 each. Yeah. And she's got so many of them, so many of them. So she's got a whole bunch of them in this heal. Oh, you're just going to love it. I can't wait to hear what you think of it, Bridget.
So cool. Well, I encourage people to sign up. Again, it's free. The link is there for you, and you'll get some freebies right away, and then the thing will go live in July. So thanks, Jane. Always good to see you.
Thank you, Bridget. Thanks so much for having me today.
Bye, everybody.